started just finishing up what I have done. Okay, so her hair is actually pretty short. It was maybe like, you can kind of see some of her real hair poking out right here. So it was maybe like to here. So we added in maybe like 2 or 3 extensions that were just added a teeny bit of length. And then what I did was I went through and I backcombed all of the roots and put in a ton of the Kenra high hold, high grip spray. If you guys haven't tried this, it's the best. So that's given it a lot of texture and a lot of just grip in there. Okay, so anytime I have a client who comes in with like silky hair, that's always what I do to start. And then we have 3 braids, okay? So I wanted the sides to be a little bit asymmetrical. I wanted the braid to be a little bit more noticeable on this side and a little bit softer on this side. So I did an inverted Dutch braid going down this side, and then just a regular French braid going down this side, okay? And then I've just taken what's left in the back and put that in a braid as well. Should we just leave it like this? This is cute, right? Yeah. Cute bridal style. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the back. So usually I like to move from the back going towards the face, just because brides get so picky about how the hair is around their face, obviously. That's kind of the most important part. So I find that if you start in the front and work back, sometimes the front ends up getting lost in translation or like messed up or whatnot. So I'm just gonna start in the back and work my way towards her face, okay? This is the 13, this is a perfect medium spray. It's got a little bit of a wax to it, so it's very good at helping with like frizz. And I do have a lot of the high grip in there, so this is pretty, like there's quite a bit of texture in there. And all I'm gonna do is just deconstruct this a little bit. And actually that's a lie, I'm gonna deconstruct it like a lot. This is pretty much these 2 braids right here, that's all I have to create her base back here. So you would look at this and be like, that is not a lot of hair. But if you have enough product in there, you really can get quite a bit more out of the hair and out of your braid. So I'm just gonna keep doing this, just totally ruin this braid. And essentially what you're doing when you're doing this to your braids, when you're deconstructing them or pancaking them or whatever you want to call it, is you're taking the length and you're turning it into bulk. So it's always easier to start at the bottom and start, you know, gradually working your way up towards the top of the braid. So you can use that length, like gradually work it up and turn it into bulk. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit more up here. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of the 13 in here, just a teeny bit more. There's definitely like a good frizz and a bad frizz, right? You want like good messy, brides always want that like perfectly messy updo. And a huge part of that for me is just making sure I use a ton of product. Because then you can get like these nice deconstructed styles, but it's not like a giant disaster. Okay, so I've got this braid deconstructed. I'm just gonna roll it underneath and bring it up here and tuck it like this, okay? So I'm holding this end, I'm gonna get this side pinned up. Now, if anyone has ever taken a class from me, they'll know that I do not open my bobby pins. Ooh, it's crazy, right? If you haven't ever tried it like that, I would highly recommend starting to experiment with that. A lot of times when you open your bobby pins, they just end up getting too much hair in them. So a huge part of how I get like a really tight, secure hold is just not opening my pins. So instead, I can't get this one in, can you tell? And rather than like shoving it in, I never like shove it into their head. I'm just gonna keep moving it until it like slides in. I can feel like an extension right there, so it's not going in right there. But anyway, so instead of like opening my pins, I do more of like a weaving technique, which you can tell that I'm doing right now. So rather than just like shoving it in, I'm kind of like crisscrossing and going back and forth and grabbing on different sections of hair to try and weave that, almost like catching on different parts of the hair to get that secured in place, if that makes sense. That way you can get your pin all the way to the scalp, and it ends up being a lot tighter. And it ends up feeling a lot tighter to them too, which is important, because a lot of times I have brides that are like, oh, it doesn't feel very secure, and then you just have to throw in some extra pins in there just, you know, so they feel like it's secure or whatever. So that helps with that. A lot of times it's like, they feel like it's loose, but in my mind I'm like, it's gonna stay, you know? So you just like throw some extra ones in for fun, right? Okay, so I'm gonna deconstruct this one a little bit more. Okay, and this one's gonna get pinned underneath the other one. Okay, and before I get this pinned, I definitely wanna check, like see what's happening, check my balance, decide exactly where I wanna put this. I have like a hole right here, but I still have this that I can use, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, so that's probably good. Add a little bit of my 25. Okay, so this I'm gonna get tucked under here and pinned. And I wanted this to be more of like a tucked looking updo, like not something super voluminous. I definitely love the voluminous ones, but I feel like the bohemian ones are usually a little bit simpler looking, less like drama, less glamour. So I wanted hers to be very just bohemian and just tucked, braided and tucked, like she just woke up and threw it up in braids and went and got married, right? Okay, so I'll hide a pin over here. Okay, so before I move on, I'm just gonna check, like this part right here, I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, let's fix that. So I just, every time I'm doing updos, I stop and check like over and over and over again. It's very easy to like start doing this when you're doing your updo, and then you like step back and you're like, whoa, what have I done? So I like to step back and look at what I'm doing. Okay. Okay. And then before I finish, so now I'm just checking the balance. You know, it's nothing crazy. Like I'm just tucking things, you know, adjusting things. So now I'll do a couple last like detailing things at the end. I'm gonna finish this braid real quick. Okay. So I'm gonna be more careful when I'm deconstructing this one. I want it to be, the braid pattern to be a little bit more noticeable. And something that my brides want a lot is like volume in their braids on the top, right? Do you guys ever get that? So what I like to do for that is I'm going to drop my braid and then I'm gonna pick it up right where it leaves the scalp, okay? And I'm just gonna push up on it and hold it there and then pancake from there. So now, all the weight of this braid is gone momentarily, right? Because you're getting it out of the way. That's what makes it hard to pancake like the top of a braid, is just the weight of the braid itself. So just holding it like this, pushing it up a bit, and then once I get this looking how I want, I'll be able to go in and hide some pins in there. And that helps just secure that volume in place. Okay? So now I'll just go in like right in the center of the braid and just hide a pin right in there to help hold that volume. And one thing I wanted to point out too, you'll notice with my partings, like this right here, I'm even gonna soften it a little bit more, but nothing is worse than like a part line, right, in your braid. Like this would be terrible. That would be terrible. So what I do when I am like parting and sectioning for braids or for anything in my updos is I have already done all my backcombing and my prep, and I don't cut through that. So I almost leave like the top layer kind of like not parted. So I'm not parting all the way to the scalp. That way it looks a lot softer through this area, because you're not creating that like giant part line that you have to try and hide. Okay, so I just want to leave this mostly how it is. I'll deconstruct it a little bit. Okay, and then I'm just going to get it wrapped under and pin the end in there. Okay, so when it comes to doing these like bridal looks, I feel like where I spend the most time is in my prep and then in my detailing, okay? So after I get it all pinned, that's when my detailing would begin. So I would look at it, like right now I'm like, oh, it's fine, you know, it's fine. But like once I detail it, it's gonna be a lot better, okay? So I'm just gonna go through, deconstruct that a little bit, hide another pin in here. Okay? And if there's anything weird, just cut it off. Just kidding, not really. But sometimes you want to, right? Sometimes you have a weird piece and you want to cut it off. Okay, so I'm just pulling on this. So I feel like already it's like going from okay to like a lot better, right? Just pulling on it, detailing it. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna check her from the front. I'm using the camera as my mirror. So some of these are a little bit, like it's fine how they are, but I kind of want to break them up just a tad, so I'm going to pin back a few, just to make it a little bit more messy. Okay, same thing on this side. I'll probably add a little bit of my air grip in there. And just mess this up to make it nice and bridal.